attending meetings regularly. So great farmers, no farmer, no food. Okay, I think you are coming up. I'm audible enough. I'm audible enough. Okay, or is it because of the recording?
Let's continue.
Okay, great farmers, no farmer, no food. Okay, because you are adults, I won't ask you to clap for yourselves. No, I won't ask you to clap for yourself. So that's a good one. Good morning, everyone. Today is a special day, and we are having an interesting event today, which is a rare one. We have special guests in our midst, and they are consultants, they are professionals, and that's why I'm saying it's a rare opportunity to come by, and they'll be having so much to share with us today, and this is a blessing that Sej Farm won't want to share alone. That's why we have to bring in representatives from everywhere, core areas of the organization of the industry to represent. So, but the major targets for today's event are the young people, and those are the youth trainees that are with us, and the interns, students on internship from the various tertiary institutions. Currently on Sej Farms, we have students as we speak now. We have 4 tertiary institutions being represented on Sej Farms. We have the students there, and currently too, the next 1 week, we'll be having the commencement of a project called the IYouth project. That's from the IIT, International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, in Ibadan. So some of the youth entrepreneurs that benefited from their program are being empowered for an entrepreneurial project here, which is going to last for 2 years, and it's going to have 4 batches, 6 monthly. It's going to run 6 monthly, and they are resuming fully by in the next 2 weeks. That's on the 10th. The project is commencing, and as God would have it, this is coming in handy. It's coming in handy. So knowledge, they say, is power, and the kind of power that will be added to the young people around now is much more than what we can measure in terms of monetary returns. So it's priceless, and it's a good foundation for them to commence the project too. So with us here, we have the WISHH representative, and I have a friend and a colleague too in the industry, the person of Mr. Sofela. I'll be handing over the mic to him for him to now introduce the Oga at the top. Sergeant, you know what Oga at the top means? You don't to do a proper introduction of what WISHH stands for and why they are doing this with us, and what the future to holds for us, not just as Sej Farms, not just as Blaska Farm, not just as, but as farmers fish farmers in the country, for the agriculture sector entirely. So can you just put your hands together while I bring up Mr. Sofela? Thank you.
I'll go to the so yeah. Good morning, everyone. I said good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir. Okay, great farmers, great nation. Sorry, I wanted to follow his own. All right, so my name is Sofolabi. So, and my full name is Sofela, Sofolabi Olani, but you can all call me Sofolabi, irrespective of who is addressing me. So, but I'm the in-country rep for the World Initiative for Soy in Human Health. I won't want to do all the introduction, but I would just like to bring up my, like you said, my senior colleague, Jeff Terhune. He'll do the introduction, proper introduction, and then I will come back and then add to whatever he has got, whatever he has said. Please join me and welcome Jeff Terhune.
Hey everyone, thank you for coming out this morning. So my name is Jeff Terhune. I am one of the consultants with WISHH, which stands for World Initiative for Soy and Human Health. And with WISHH, the organization in itself, what we do is it is a sponsorship program that is put on by the American soybean farmers, and they contribute money into this organization to help long-term marketing for soy to be put into animal feeds and in human food products. And so one of the things about this organization that they have is they have an extremely long-term vision. And we're talking like they have strategic plans for the next 20 to 30 years. And even though, it's put on by the American soybean farmers, what they look at is how can they get more soy being put into those products. And because it helps everyone. It's a quality product, and it helps everyone from not only the consumer standpoint, but also the farmers, and that's worldwide. So what their overall goal is to try to get more soy put into these products, and it helps everyone around the world, and that is part of their strategic plan. So one of the components about the programming that they do is help provide technical assistance to farmers and to farming industries. And it's all related, again, around either foods that are going into the human food chain. So in this particular case, food, aquaculture with fish. And as you know, in a lot of fish feeds, soy can be a major ingredient that can help supply not only good quality protein, but other components of the fish feed that the fish actually need and can absorb and utilize. So part of what we do is in providing this technical training is we try to go through, we conduct these training programs, not only as a group type setting, but also one-on-one setting to help increase our farmers' productive capacity and especially their farm efficiency. So if you have better efficiency on the farm, what does that translate to? It translates to profit. It translates to money, long-term sustainability of your farm, which in turn also provides long-term sustainability of the aquaculture industry in the countries that we're doing work in. Currently, right now, Sofolabi, as he mentioned, he is our in-country rep for this programming. We're doing a lot of work throughout Western Africa, primarily looking at Ghana, and I'm going to give you some examples of some of the things that we've been working with in Ghana today. But we're also doing work in Southeast Asia. But today, this is my second trip to Nigeria. Have enjoyed every minute of it, and so thankful that I have this opportunity to be able to come and hopefully share some knowledge. A little bit about myself. I have been working in aquaculture since 1988. So, I've got a long career in it, stretching 30 plus years. And that's when I started out, as many of you, like a young student, working when I went to university, started working on the university's research farm. I completed a master's and a PhD, and then also went on to work with a couple of different universities throughout my career, working with farmers in extension type roles, outreach roles, and doing teaching and research at the university level. And then in 2020, I resigned from that world and become a consultant with WISHH pretty much full time. So this has been my life for the last 3 years, and going around doing these trainings. We do a lot of work behind the scenes, setting these kind of trainings up, help provide a lot of background information for Sofolabi and our representatives in the other countries. But so today's program, well, a little bit more about my background, and because it'll help set up what today's programming is about. So I was trained in aquaculture, aquaculture production, but in my PhD work and in my university work, I did primarily work with fish health and disease management. So I would make the link, do research and teaching what the linkages were between aquaculture production management practices and how it affected disease issues. So how does all this come into play? Well, again, we're trying to increase a farmer's efficiency. We're trying to increase their production rates in an efficient way. So that sets up today's programming, and what we're going to do is a very introductory way of talking about aquaculture production, specifically about carrying capacity. This is probably the most important concept associated with aquaculture. And it's what most farmers completely miss. And Sofolabi's going to put together this, he's going to present this presentation. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about how this transfers over to fish health management, water quality management, how they're all related together, and then he's going to finish out the day talking about aspects of feed management in itself. So we've got a full day's pack of information, and it's primarily going to be generated towards aquaculture production. Now, I know a lot of you are involved in processing, but there's still that linkage, because if we don't have a good product that we're generating on the farm in the ponds, then what kind of product have we got for the process, and how long is the shelf life going to last for that? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make these linkages, but again, it's more geared toward real production aspects, but it translates across the entire value chain. So from our brood fish, eggs, how we grow these animals out, to when we process them, to when they're reaching our consumers. And because if consumers don't like our products, then none of us are going to be in business. We're not going to have any kind of economic stream behind us. And that's who we're really targeting, is the consumer end of our products. So hopefully today we'll be giving you some information that you can utilize on the farm and in consideration of the various aspects of the different parts of this industry that you operate in. Okay? Any questions, comments? Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Sofolabi.
So I want to start by saying thank you everyone for coming out. I know, and I want to say a very big thank you to Sej, because he has not accepted, he has not received any funding for this. He has not done all this.
Please don't get right in front of me. I want to make sure that I've got it clear.
We came in yesterday and we saw the hard work that was being done here. I know it's not for something that they are not doing today. We are not going to produce any naira income in this hard time. And putting out all these things. I want to really appreciate Sej Farms for receiving us. A little bit about, just to have to work just so WISHH does this training in conjunction with different, along the value chain. And Jeff came in last week on Wednesday, and we've been to a feed mill where we did a training for all the sales agents in that feed mill. We've been to a diagnostic lab where we did training for some of the diagnosticians there. So just to make you understand that WISHH work cut across the value chain. And what we are trying to do is to try to unbundle the bottlenecks that affect the aquaculture value chain in Nigeria. So, be it when it comes to medications, in diagnosing fish diseases, in preservation and storage. We are doing so many things along the value chain, and we hope that this is just the beginning that you continue to hear from us. So just so that we don't take more of the time, today is already shortened, but I will try as much as possible to go, very fast and not too fast, but not too slow. But one thing I just want to say is that please and please and please, our trainings usually is not a 1 day, 2 day training. It's usually like a 3 days, 5 days intensive training whereby we do the theory in the class in the morning, and then we go to do the practicals in the farms in the afternoon or evening. So that's the kind of way our trainings are structured. But notwithstanding, we have to make do of whatever time we have. So because I discovered that Jeff is coming in, and I just don't want to just go out, without meeting farmers and interacting. So that's why we just have to combine with research to be able to bring this and make it happen. So, but I want to say this, that this is not going to be the last time we're going to be here. I know there's so many people in this region, in Lagos, in Badagry, Last Japan is working so well. So, but this is not the last time we are going to be coming. We are still going to be coming, and then we are a team of like 4 people or 5. We are just 2 here today, so you are still going to meet, in subsequent times. You are going to meet the full team, but for the time being, please just accept us where we are, and so that we can move forward. All right, so.
We need to turn this.
So that can everybody see? Yeah, you're the way to take the line off.
Does this need to be turned a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. So one thing I also like to say is that we cherish so much, not what we want to talk about, but the discussions that emanate from everybody. So at any point in time, you can stop me. If I can answer the question, he will take the question, and then we work as a team. So, but questions, is more important than what we are teaching. So in case we are saying something and there's something else that doesn't even relate to what we are talking about jumps in your mind, please feel free to let's discuss, because it's more important that we address some of the questions that is on your mind than dump, what we have in mind on you. So many times our training, it's like a 5-day training or 3-day training. We create a group chat whereby farmers ask questions first, and then we use that to be able to respond. So we don't just come with our own curriculum. In fact, most of the time we don't have a curriculum. We generate curriculum from what the farmers have asked. So, but so to start today, we are going to be talking about carrying capacity. And we think carrying capacity is the most important, like it says here, the most important idea in aquaculture. Okay? And you will see why. It's not as if, I think many of us know what carrying capacity is, because we are already practicing farmers. We know what carrying capacity is. So, many of us know what I'm trying to say when I say carrying capacity. Yes. What's carrying capacity?
Abiodun Rashid is my name. And when you refer to carrying capacity, it means the amount of fish in relative ground, what we're talking about. That a pond can carry, given a square meter or square space with the amount of the volume of water in there, that will bring about the minimum and of the optimal results, with the minimal use of resources.
Yeah, I think you covered most of it. Yes, you covered most of it. The only thing it doesn't measure is the feed, because feed is but you said it again. In water. So I won't take more because I think you've already wrapped everything up. So that's in a nutshell. That's what carrying capacity is about. But I have a different definition for carrying capacity, which still goes along with what you said. So It's what? Okay. So there are 5 things that are very important to They are very important to an aquaculture venture. We know all of them, so we are going to try to mention it here. 5 things. When we are talking about aquaculture, what are the 5 things that makes aquaculture business successful? Or aquaculture enterprise?
Quality water.
Quality water. What else?
Quality feed.
Quality fish.
Quality seed.
Quality seed.
Management.
What else? What more? Yes, they are going to move fast. I'm very happy because, yes, we have very intelligent conversation. So, they are going to move very fast. One more thing. All right, since you already got it, let me add feed, you mentioned water, I mentioned the fish, that's the seed management, and then the market. All right. So most of the time, what many people depend or talk about most of the time is feed, water, fish, but they forget the market. I know after a while as a farmer, you begin to take market into consideration. Now we are talking about blast freezing, processing and things like that. Before it was just production and then profit management. How do we keep the feed alive? Those are things that we talk about. But now, marketing is also very, very important. We know that. So, this is my definition for carrying capacity. The point at which fish stop growing. Have we ever experienced it before that you are rearing fish in a pond, or in a tank, but then the fish suddenly stop growing? Anybody? Most people. Except probably those are in IT that's still trying to. Alright, so the point at which fish stop growing. But fish can stop growing due to several reasons. Number 1, feed not being enough in quantity or in quality. So these are some of the complex things. So when we're talking about carrying capacity, it's not just about, okay, when fish stop growing. Some people can say, my fish has stopped growing, but then are you feeding well? Alright? So water quality as well. Water quality is another issue that can make fish stop growing. And then fish species, for example, tilapia and clarias, we discover that both of them have different carrying capacity. The stocking density of tilapia is different from the stocking density of clarias. Am I right? Okay? So some of these things are what goes into consideration when we're talking about carrying capacity. So you will get to understand more as we move on with the examples that I'm going to give. But the reason why I would say it's a very, very important concept because if you know your species, you know your feed, you have good quality feed, and then you maintain good quality water, then you can maximize the growth of fish in a pond or tank. Am I communicating? All right. These are some of the things we already know, but we are going to see it graphically, and then I'm going to be able to point out something that you can practice. All right. Let's take a production example. Our pond. Let's say we have we want to stock in a pond with 10,000 fingerlings, right? Imagine it's your pond. They are 5 grams in weight.
How 5 grams in weight is equivalent of what is in
No, let's not move there yet. Let's not move there yet. So it can be tilapia, it can be clarias, but I'm just using it to explain the concept of carrying capacity now. All right. So total weight at stocking is what? 50 kg. So what I'm trying to do now is that I want to use a production example to explain carrying capacity, okay? So that we can all understand and be on the same page. All right. So 50 kg. Now, I'm going to ask a question. This is my stocking. This is my stocking month 0. Remember from here, total weight at stocking is 50 kg. Here is 50 kg. How many of us understand how I got 50 kg? Do you understand? That's the beginning of production. All right, so I got 50 kg by multiplying 10,000 fingerlings by 5 grams, and then dividing by 1,000 to give me the weight in kg. All right. So I stopped at month 0, 50 kg. All right, and then month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5. As the fish begins to grow, my pond at a point will reach a certain capacity that it won't allow for optimal fish growth. Alright? That's what I refer to as carrying capacity. Do we understand graphically now? Alright? So, let me ask you a question. From month 0 to month 1, the total biomass in the pond, the total fish, they gain 350 kg. Alright? And they kept on gaining. Let me ask you a question. If you were the farmer, where do you think, having this data, you are the farmer, all of us are farmers, right? We have a pond. We know that as month 8, if we stock 50 kg of fish, and then it's getting to this particular weight, it stops growing. What are we going to do as managers? I want somebody who has not talked today. You want to talk? I saw your hand. What will you do as a manager?
Get more kids.
Yes. So no. You know this is the carrying capacity of your pond. This is the way your pond behaves. If you stock 50 kg, after month 1, month 2, you see progressive growth up until when you get to month 7, or it's from month 6 to month 7, you begin to have your growth slow down. Can you see? From 50 to 400 to 900 to 15 to 22 to 3000 to 33 to 35. What will you do? This is where your pond behaves. What will you do? Yeah, as a manager.
I would rather take it to supermarket.
When?
At month 7.
At month 7.
At month 8, I'll be wasting money.
You'll be wasting money. Alright. You chose month 7. So my question is, what will you do as a manager? I said you'd rather sell at month 7. Abi, another person have a contrary idea.
I'd rather sell at month 5.
Month 5. Do we agree? Month 5.
Yes.
Daddy said he's going to sell at month 5.
Yes.
What are you saying? Yes. My IT students, I'm sure you guys are very good processing guys. What are you going to do? Your pond, anytime you get to month 3, 400 minus 50, 350, you get 350 kg just within 1 month. 900 minus 400, you gain 500 in another month. 15 minus 900. Can you see the progressive growth? 22 minus 15. 3000 minus 22. 800 kg within 1 month, just in this space of 1 month. 33 minus 3000. 300. What's happening? 35 minus 33. 35 minus 35. Progression has dropped suddenly. When we're flying from 0, so what's happening? What's happening to this pond? Is it big? Let's talk about it. What can be happening? Maybe the farmer is not feeding well.
If the farmer is not feeding well, from month 0 to 1, there will not be growth, and the growth is progressive. So if we now get to month 5, and there is retardation in the rate of growth, it shows that the volume of fish that water, it has reached the capacity of what it can accommodate. Even if you are feeding, because as they are growing, there is progression or increase in the quantity of feed as well. So if you are feeding more than that, because of the space available, they won't grow more than that. It has been, we have been talking of optimum fish population that has taken place. Thank you.
Please let me clap to the rest of this one. Alright, but do we all agree? Could it be that the farmer, maybe from month 5 to month 6, is okay, let's leave feed. Maybe his fish is not good. Maybe so. It cannot be so because there has been progressive growth. So what's the problem? The captured it is the carrying capacity. The carrying capacity of that particular pond. But do we want to agree that everybody experiences this? Or let me ask this question this way. How many of us have experienced something like this? I know you will have experienced it now. Yeah, so but what was your, can you share if you have any experience in that? How were you able to solve that problem? Okay, you've reached carrying capacity, so what did you do?
Yeah, most times if you look at the business angle of the whole thing, that's where the mission returns are setting in. and you start losing a lot of money. So the best thing to do then is to sell. If you don't dispose of what you have, because when it gets to a point, there is no compensatory growth for catfish, really. And if you relate it to humans too, when you get to a particular age, you stop growing. All you need is maintenance rations. Um, for instance, if you look at the man, the daddy in front of me now, no matter how much protein they consume, you're not going to add to his height. I'm just trying to make it simple, easy to relate to, and that's the same thing. So, for fish, for human, you keep adding knowledge and wisdom as you keep growing. But for animal, that is not pet, that is for business, it's not really advisable you keep pushing any longer. Thank you. And currently, that's the challenge most farmers are experiencing, and that's why most farmers are out of business because they keep their stock for too long. Eventually, when they sell, there is no profit anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it's like we all understand this issue, this concept and management because it's simpler, graphically. But then, let's talk about your own farm, your own pond. How do you get to know this graph in your own pond? You have a pond or 2 ponds or 3 ponds. How do you know that when you stock a certain weight of fish, it begins to slow down, maybe at month 5, month 6, or month 7? How would you know? Yes, so you test crop, let's say it's my first time. It's your first time of growing the fish. You stock, you test crop. But how would you know that I'm supposed to harvest at either month 5, 6, or 7? I'm not giving the answer. Either month 5, month 6, or 7. How would you know? You are correct at test crop, you are correct. But just explain further.
Yeah, what I do is I calculate the quantity of feed used so far, which I can easily run a rough feed conversion ratio to know if I sample the
We are still going to see some slides showing what you are saying. But the correct answer to this question is by record. If you have done it the first time, second time, third time, you are going to be able to plot this graph yourself. You are going to be able to know that when you stock 5,000 fingerlings in this pond, after month 4, this usually happens to me. And it's going to be very different on different farms. Because in farm A, that person has a gorge by his side. It has a lot of water, it can pump water. But at farm B, there's not enough water to be able to run flow through or change water more often. Because carrying capacity depends on what? Feed, the kind of fish, and then water quality. So he's not able to manage water quality as efficiently as other farms. Alright? So that's why sometimes you can't really base your own farm or your own production or management strategy on another person's management strategy. Even you might have both of you might have give the same amount of water. You might be, but water quality is different. The chemistry of the water is different. So you can't base your production of farm A with farm B. Alright? So back to the question, when will you harvest? Anybody wants to try again? When will you harvest? Month 5. So I personally will harvest at month 5 because I've plotted it over time. I know that if I stock a certain amount of fish at month 5, I'm not going to get as much growth anymore. Don't forget that you are going to be spending so much money, not only on feed, you're going to be spending money on water changing, you're going to be spending money on personnel that is on the farm. So if you're going to spend money just gaining 300 kg, it might not worth it. Might not worth it. Depends. Might not worth it. But some people choose month 5, some people choose month 6. But the point is, don't get beyond month 6 before you begin to. So my point here is just, we have to be able to model this for our own farm. That's why we say it's an important concept in aquaculture. You have to be able to model it for your own farm. And buy and things like that. But you have to know that your farm is peculiar due to certain reasons. Alright, so moving on. Can this pond produce 700 kg of fish? 7,000 kg. Can this one produce 7,000 kg of fish? No. But some farmers try to. And that's when we get stuck. It's at 3,500 kg, but there are 7,000. You're turning my major delay there. And that's why sometimes, like Sej said, we get stuck and lose money. Okay, I've asked this question. And then, so what will happen if the farmer weekend until month 8? Lots of profits. He says, what will happen if the farmer wicked to month 8? Loss. Okay, I thought you said lots of profit. Loss of profit. Okay. Loss. All right, great. And then, okay, go ahead. This side of the graph. So it's production, weight. Yes, the weight. So we are reading this side from here. So the 400 is from this side.
That's 400 kilograms.
Kilograms, yes. So it's in kilograms, and this is the month. So, but aside loss, what are the particular things that will happen on the farm if you wait the month 8? Generally, we are going to lose money. What are the specific things that are going to be happening? What is that? But have you ever experienced that probably when you are moving towards the time that you want to harvest your fish, you're going to see the bigger fish is dying? Bigger fish is dying. It's because of carrying capacity. That pond is telling you it's getting to carrying capacity. It's almost reached carrying capacity. How many of you have gotten to ponds and they are smelling before? Sampling, by constantly sampling. But not just sampling. Some people can be sampling, but what does your sampling information tell you? By putting records together, combining it with previous production, you can begin to model your ponds and your sampling fish. Feeding response. At this point, as it begins to move to carrying capacity, the feeding response declines. I'm sure we all know this. Alright, yeah. We mentioned this as well. Health issues. And then Jeff is going to be coming to tell us some things about health issues. But the fish begins to have mortality. You begin to see some clinical signs. You begin to see some clinical signs that looks, ranges from so many things. Fin rots and things like that. So we have a pond on Saturday, and then these fishes were massive, very big. But then we began to see that the water was black, and then it was smelling. It's a classic sign of carrying capacity. It tells you that, you need to do something about it. So I also mentioned this earlier, comparing, okay. So, what do we do with the data that we have from carrying capacity? So if I know that my pond cannot take more than 3,000, biomass. You remember we said we're going to harvest at month 5. Month 5, by then, the total weight of fish in the pond was 3,000 kg. If I know that my pond can only hold 3,000 kg, then I should begin to adjust my stocking rates. Instead of putting or stocking 10,000 fishes or fingerlings, I should begin to adjust it to fit my carrying capacity. Because I'm seeing some people that they're just starting out fish pond and then say, just pour 10,000 fingerlings here or 5,000 fingerlings here. They don't even have an outlet in their pond. They don't have pumping machine to pump bad water, to change to new water. They don't even have alternative source of water. You understand? So carrying capacity helps us to limit our stocking rates. And I'm sure as experienced farmers, we know that. But this is what we are doing. All right. So if the carrying capacity of my pond is 3,500 kg, that's the carrying capacity of my pond. I don't want it to get to my carrying capacity. That's the goal of management. You don't want your pond to get to carrying capacity, because if it gets to carrying capacity, you know by all means that you are losing something. Then you are beginning to lose fish to mortality. You begin to lose, the feeds don't perform as well, or FCR becomes more, higher in figure and things like that. So I want my harvest size to be around 3,200, just in between month 5 and month 6. That's my target. All right. So if that's my target, another thing that I should also put in consideration is what is my desired harvest size. So if I'm going to 1 kg, I should be doing something else. But if my desired harvest size, maybe for smoking or even less than that, is maybe 700 grams, what my stocking rate should be, since my total harvest capacity of my pond is 3,200, I should be dividing it by the desired harvest size to get the quantity of fish I should initially stock. Do I need to go over it? Yes. Okay. So remember, we are talking about carrying capacity. We don't want our pond to get to carrying capacity. We don't want it. We know the consequences already. We've talked about it. So what we are supposed to be shooting for is just a little bit below carrying capacity. Remember, month 5, some of us agree that month 5. I also agree. Month 5 should be the month I should be thinking of harvesting. So, but let's shoot a little bit above month 5. Let's say the harvest capacity is 3,200 kg. All right? There's always one person. In the last training, I wanted to speak to Yoruba, then I can go wrong. One person. All right, so the harvest capacity of that pond, what the pond can contain, is 3,200 kg. At the end of the day, that is what we think is appropriate to be able to harvest from that pond. We know from our records. But then our market size, let's say I want to take my fish to like 700 grams. All right, that's what this is. 700 grams is 0.7 kg, right? Let's say I want to take my fish to 700 grams. So now, knowing that, what is the number of fish that I'm supposed to put in the water? It should be the harvest capacity divided by the harvest size. Be careful of the units, kg. Don't divide this by grams because you have more. You have less. All right? Make sure you convert to kg. So that will be 3,200 divided by 0.74. That gives you your stocking rate. So, and as practical farmers, we should be able to do this for each pond. If you have 10 ponds in your farm, you should be able to do it for 10 ponds. Because do you know that even in your farm, you can have some ponds that your flow rate is not as much in some ponds as some other ponds. That's flow rate. That is the way you can exchange water. You can do water exchange. Some ponds, even on your farm, when you put on your pumping machine, do you know that if you have like a 1.5 horsepower pumping machine and then you have 10 ponds lined up, the 10th one won't be able to get much water as the first one. You should be able to know that the first pond should have a higher carrying capacity than the 10th pond, if that is the case in your farm. So what I'm trying to say is that based on the peculiarity of the farm, we should be able to model each pond and say, it must not be more than 3,000 in this pond. It must not be more than 3,100 in this pond. I'm just saying, sometimes we have that peculiarity in our farm. All right? So, any questions?
From the initial stage of setting the total number of fish that we need to stock. How are you going to do to the pond capacity?
You mean pond size?
Pond size, yes.
Yes. Indirectly, you look into, if you are talking about carrying capacity, you look into the pond size indirectly. Because whether it is 100 by 100 or 50 by 100, 50 by 100 based on that size cannot take what 100 by 100 can take. So indirectly, you are considering the size. So what we are trying to say is not just about the size. Because if you only look at the size, if you go to anywhere, the way they pump water every day in that place, in Ibadan, we don't do that. So some of them there, for half a day, their pump machine is on. When you get there, like when you see the water, you can see the fish. So is it just about the size? Now, if I use the stocking density that I use in the area, now go to my Ibadan where we are waiting for groundwater to come up. You know it's not just the size. So that's why we are talking about this concept of carrying capacity. It's not just about the size of the pond. You have to look into consideration how well can you manage your water quality. Some ponds, some places, some farms, they can do well with their water quality because they have enough water to exchange. But whether in some other farms, they cannot do the same, despite the fact that they have the same size of pond. So should they stock the same number of fish, they might not be able to compete with each other. So when you're talking about carrying capacity, you've already factored it in some way, the dimension of the pond. Did that answer the question? Question?
Yeah. Is it? When you are trying to introduce the topic to us, we understood how you got into fish of capital and carrying capacity. But with what I can deduce now, it has to do with series of experimentation over years. Inevitably, it now means that one has to like put a lot of time for that let me say wastage, because that means some resources will have been used. But is there not a possibility of getting a particular formula that is from the ground zero? That this is going to be the actual accurate carrying capacity of this very particular pond. Then from there, so it will not allow, because this thing we say, before one can say, okay, you want to extrapolate, you want to extend, so you have wasted money, wasted resources, wasted time over 3, 4, 5 years before you can now be so you cannot say, okay, this I cannot get henceforth from this place now. But is there a possibility from getting it from ground zero? Maybe using a particular formula that's relating to the pond size and the water volume, water capacity, and every other management concepts. That's my question.
Yes. So all of us here. So most of the people I'm talking to, this audience, you are more experienced than I am. So how did you do it in your own farm? How did you do that? You didn't waste, or if you are going to advise somebody coming newly, how will you do it? So you remember we mentioned the other time that you need to check other farms. We need to check. So that's why many people, and the industry is such a way that we find people entering and going out after one season. That's one of the reasons you are talking about. And some of them, crowdfunding, they don't listen. Even if you are there, you don't put more than 500 in this fund, though. When they are collecting, they collect 1.5. And we not see people like that. So the point is, check with other people. That's first of all. Experience around. Because people, okay, in Badagry now, I'm sure there are ponds all around. If I'm coming newly, I should be able to ask you, who let me share. Sometimes come and do IT first, maybe for even 6 months, before you go and start up your own. So yes, I know you can use stocking density. You can use the stocking density, the size, but I'm just trying to explain here that sometimes the stocking density alone doesn't solve the whole issue. I answered the question directly and indirectly.
I'm sorry. In the question I was trying to do some.
So
can
the
the question be repeated?
The question is, now we know that, okay, yes, we can plot out something like this, but it takes time to do this.
Yeah.
So if I'm coming newly into the business, is there a way to know, this information beforehand so that I avoid wastage?
Yeah, yeah. Especially for new farmers, is you can talk to other farmers, but you need to get information from really good farmers. Sej, what he was talking about earlier, he's made all the mistakes, and just his few comments, he completely gets this concept. But even as a new farmer, you don't want to really be pushing the system to the point where you're going to be breaking it, especially your first couple of production cycles. When I first started working in extension outreach, one of my first jobs, I saw the industry, the area where I worked, the farm clusters where I worked, we went from, it was about 1,500 hectares of water that was in catfish production to almost 6,000, up to about 5,000 hectares of water. That's a lot of water, a lot of production. And a lot of those were new farmers that were coming on. And so what they were trying to do was they were trying to replicate what farmers had been doing for years and years, had years of experience in. So get that kind of information from reliable people, but also be checking with your technical experts like Sofolabi, getting information online. And as a new farmer, probably one of the first things that you need to do is you build out a business plan before you start digging or constructing a pond and stocking your first fish. You have a business plan and have somebody to help review that understands how the numbers work. And make sure that this is reasonable, the growth rates are reasonable. Have somebody like Sofolabi, or you go into looking at numbers that are known and published that are out there from good, reliable sources. Typically from university sources are really good, especially for beginner farmers. Because one of the last things that you do is you want to start doing production where you're trying to match up with somebody that's been doing it for 10 years and you don't really know what to anticipate, what to expect, and you have all sorts of problems and your neighbor may not be doing it all right, but they may be doing what works for them very well. You can't always replicate that. You have to figure out what you can do based on your level of experience. So you start off slow. That's my advice, is you start off slow and you build up, and because you learn about how that system is going to work. But yes, there is plenty of really good data. We've all got, we got really good publications on that. We can point you in the right direction or point your farmers in that direction about how to get to that. I hope that kind of helps explain the answer a little bit better.
Thank you, Mr. James.
Sure.
I actually asked that question because of some of us are still new. And perhaps maybe some of us might not actually broad-minded in that.
Yes.
I think. But the thing is this: I want to ask again. What about all those formulas that we encountered in the past? This is the formula for carrying capacity based on the pond size, then the system of the management system you want to adopt, whether it is intensive, semi-intensive, stagnant. There have been a lot of formulas,
yes.
And that is the reason why I'm asking now, because over the years one has encountered so many myriads of formulas that some will say, okay, you want to do this, okay, this is going to be this divided by this 10 times so amount of numbers. So, at a point one gets confused.
Yeah.
And actually that's why what you rightly said, that the best is experience. Because after maybe you tried this, it didn't work, but what I'm now just the thing I actually want to get is that if there is a kind of possibility that okay, at least you can't be Mr. Perfect at the initial, but if there is a way that maybe from the word going that you can at least it's like 70% okay, then you can also okay. You won't be different, you know, you'll be quite different from somebody that is just starting from zero. And then another thing, some of us are happen to be in a place whereby we are the first in the area. So what do you do about that? So now eventually you now have to rely on the formulas and which are so confusing. So that's why I'm asking from to know your expertise opinion, and then if there's a way that we can, I can take on from that.
Yeah, so if I had like one formula, especially like in a case like this for like pond aquaculture and even tank aquaculture, really your key formula is how much feed per hectare, per cubic water, per cubic meter of water can go into a system per day. That is probably the number one formula that you have to look at, because that right there determines all of this. Okay? And because how that environment assimilates all that feed, whether it's the fish ingesting it, whether they're pooping it out, or whether it goes uneaten, you have a maximum limit, and that has been shown over and over and over and over again. I mean, not only in research studies, but also on-farm data. It all depends on how much feed per cubic meter of water that you're putting in per day and how that system is going to assimilate. Those are the key formulas. Then you can start back calculating. You're correct. Then you can start back calculating to get to this point right here. Because if we have, let's say we reach our maximum capacity of 20 kilos per hectare per day, or 30 kilos per hectare per hectare per day. Well, if we know that, that's what our maximum amount is. Okay, this is where we want to reach that maximum feed inputs right here at month 5 and 6. So if we know that, and this is where our maximum is, then we can start figuring out, okay, what is our average kilo size fish? Then we can start back calculating into all of this. Okay, that's pretty simple calculation, but if there's one formula that you have to know and understand and you get a grasp of, it would be how much is that system going to be able, how much feed is that system going to be able to assimilate per day without significantly. You are managing the system, whether it's with aeration, blowers, water exchange, all of that is impacted. But generally, if you're not in a pond, generally it's going to be anywhere between what is recommended is somewhere around 10 to 30 kilos per hectare.
Thanks. There's a question. No comment. Just by it. Is this still really working? Okay.
I think what is he talking about? The question was not even meant for you. Question. But I know what we really learn most in this business is mentorship. As you said before, according to the way it is being advised, I'm sure we won't have any issue of diseases or anything on the farm. And I discovered the water quality is different from one farm to another. But if you can follow this procedure, there's a regulated and agreed portion of water to a particular point, the depth, and calculation of the water, which will now give us the number of fish that we can put in the water. If we have all this in place, there will be any issue. But we cannot compare farms we said before. Let me give you an example. There's a farm, I just started mentoring the farm about 4 days ago now. I got there, they stock 4,000 pieces, they have 13 ponds, and about 40 surface ponds. Mom was telling me they have 1 kg fish. Let me test for bring out 10. After I told him we can only have 80% to make a kilo in this pond. Because there are 1 kg there. They empty the pond. We only got 2 1 kgs. Just about 5%, 800 grams. 75%, 2.5. For fish of 4 months.
So my that's
500 grams, yeah, 1.5. In 4 months. And they are feeding excessively. And the water is black. And that's one to come in. You're coming the other time. Sometimes not about the feed or anything. The water has iron. So with the fish in it, it makes water to be black in good time. There will be no odor, but water is black. And we know good water helps good feed. If the water is bad, the feed is good, it will mean nothing. But I know mentorship matters. I now ask them, this is your first sales in this kind of farm. Who's mentoring you? They only took them to go the fingerlings, the fish market. How many times have you been to your farm? About 3 times. How many times have you been to your own farm? He said no. You should have been going there. See the knowledge of his own fish compared to yours. You can ask questions. You have different kind of water, but at least make him come in good time. See the progress of the farm, then I tell you 1 or 2 things. If I be in charge, probably there will be some changes in it. So mentorship matters so much in this business. Without mentorship, it's like
and it's just like many businesses too.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more about mentorship, and you are correct also in that each individual farm is very different from one another. You know, just like your children. How many of you have more than 3 children? You know, or you've got 3 brothers or sisters. All of you are very different. You come out of the same household, but all of you are very different personalities. You know, I've got 2 kids, and 1 daughter, 1 son, and they are as different as night and day. Stop laughing, because he knows my story. But just like children coming out of the same household, if we have ponds on the same plot of land as my neighbor is next door, and really the only thing that separates the 2 are a road, because of the soil differences, they could be very completely different ponds. If you have, a kind of a different water source than what I have, it could be very different. So you have to look at, you can't use just a formula. It is something that you have to, it's an individual basis, and not only from a farm, but farm to farm, is you have to manage it based on what that farm's capabilities is, but you also have to look at individual production units, because there's a lot of ponds, for whatever reason, they are better producers than others. Especially if you've got multiple ponds, I'm sure if you go back and you look at your records, you see this is a good producing pond. These can be, depending on the year, they can be good, they can be worse, bad. It's always tailing behind the others. And so you have to look at it from an individual basis. And you have to do what you are comfortable with based on your circumstances, not what your neighbor across the road is doing. But can you use them as a mentor? Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more on that. But you nailed it. It has to be an individual basis, and what that particular production unit, the characteristics about that are. And the only way to get to that eventually is you can use these guidelines can we always say, even if somebody asks for a feeding chart for a given size of fish, where does it, as fish grow at an average size, what should you be feeding them? There are some general tables or guidelines for that. Folabi's going to talk about that later. But your fish doesn't have a copy of that feeding chart. They don't have a copy of your business plan. They can't read that. Even if you took it and you put it down in the water with them, they would not be able to read and understand it. Okay? So you have to be going through and you have to be measuring and taking your own data on your stocking, your periodic intermittent growth rates, and recording all that information down. And I'll get into some of that a little bit later about record keeping. But that is so important to do these things so that you learn the characteristics of your farm and your management style as compared to your neighbor. So again, just like your children, your brothers, your sisters, and again, me and my sister, we're very different people. Same parents, we're just very different people. Very different. So it's the same kind of concept with your aquaculture production ponds. There's some general guidelines that you can go by, but ultimately you've got to do things individually based.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think that's clear. So just to add to what Jeff said, so there's a pond I went to, not far from here, and they have, I think, up to 15 active ponds. But there's this one pond that they said fish, and then they stopped it. Fish does that. And I went there one day and I took the alkalinity, and the alkalinity was 0. So it means that the soil, at that particular point, was emitting something very bad. So, and it's just separated just by a foot from another pond that is doing well. So that happens here as well. So I would like to skip all this because we're still talking about stocking rates. When you calculate that figure, add mortality rate and then mortality due to transportation and the rest. That's not all what this slide is about. So, but what I quickly want to move to is how can carrying capacity of a pond be increased? So I'm quickly going to go back to our chart. Let's say this is my pond, based on the normal circumstance of my farm. But I want to increase the carrying capacity of this pond from 3,200 or 3,500, which I know that this pond can only support based on my circumstances. My water exchange rates, my feed and everything. This is what my pond can support. But if I want to increase it, what can I do?
What do I install aerating machine?
So you can aerate, okay? But aeration comes at a cost, so you have to balance the economics as well. After aeration, what else can you do? Change your management system. So there are several things you can do. Change to a more resilient species. We were farming tilapia before. I know many people in Ghana now, they are running away from their tilapia. They are farming catfish now. So use better quality feed. That might help you. If you are using maybe feed from toll millers, if you change to a better quality feed, it might help you, get to stop the fouling of the water. Water from quickly getting dirty so that you have to change it too much. Replace bad quality water with good water, and you mentioned aeration. So there are several things you can tweak in your management system to increase your carrying capacity. But this is where I'm going. Some of us practice something called partial harvest. We already do it, but sometimes we don't have the data to back it up. But there was an experiment that was done using that carrying capacity experience to prove that you can increase the carrying capacity of your pond by partial harvest. It's common sense that we already do. We already do this. So I have a friend that he has a smoking thing that can, I think, smoke, 100 kg. So he will always go back to his pond to pick 100 kg. But when the next time he's going back, maybe he has picked up bigger fishes, that 500, 600. The next time he's going back, maybe after 2 weeks or after 10 days, you discover that some fishes have already gotten to that size again. That's the concept of partial harvest. So you remember that we're saying that at month 5, that's when we will most likely be our management strategy of harvesting. But instead of harvesting everything at month 5, you can harvest a little bit. Let's say you harvest 800 kg at month 5. At month 5, I think we were at 3,000 kg total. If you take a significant proportion of the total biomass in the pond, such that you drop the total biomass by a bit, what's going to happen? Suddenly water quality begins to get better for the fish. And then you've taken the bigger fishes away, and then the smaller fishes can do compensation growth. They jump again. Maybe after a month, you can take 800 kg of the total again. It drops again. And then at the end of maybe the 7th month, you can crop the total thing. But what we found out is that the total biomass that you have at the end of the day won't be 3.5, it will be more than 3.5. So this is a strategy that doesn't cost so much. We can use in our farm. And this is something that we call partial harvesting. I know some of us already do it. But sometimes we need the science to back it up. What is happening in the pond. So it's a carrying capacity issue when your pond cannot support the growth of your fish, but at the end of the day, there are some management strategies that you can employ. And one of it is partial harvest. Is this true? Yes. Do we all agree? Yes. So I think I've come to the end of the slide. I don't want to go through the last slide because it's another discussion. And I don't know if this is new information to us, but I think it's something that we can add to our management strategy. Okay, and for those of us already starting out, some of you that are starting out, it's just not about putting fish in water. Sometimes you have to be able to model your pond to know exactly what your pond can hide. These are your feed, the water quality that your management can support. And this is a very, very important concept. So on this note, if you still have more questions, we'd like to take it before Jeff.
The people that matters here, some of them are here, because this aspect is very, very important. Also, to curb the problem of you not getting, it's not exceeding the carrying capacity, that you are not really having value for money. You talk of at the point of going into the business, and this is the problem we have with many of our farmers. Maybe they just come across more money, and somebody tells them, this thing is working, they're going to make fish. Yes, they're going to make a lot of millions. That is what puts a lot of them into it. Not really that they want to go into business, but because somebody said this is working, you can make money from there, you rush in. Not getting the real information, the required information before going in. Number 2, we also discovered around here, especially in the state, we have extension officers that are well groomed, majority of them are also farmers. At least they specialize in one area or the other, but again, let us talk of there's a language we use. Examine that in all the areas of agriculture, they are good, and virtually 90% of them are also into product. If farmers want to go into any production, any agricultural side production, either crop, aquaculture, or livestock, we've been telling them, approach them in the office. When they approach, we have farmers. Now we have the ratio of farmers to extension officers is very, very, very low. Yes. But we have farmers that are good in any of the fields that we can attach them to. They will give them professional advice, not only professional advice, they will also give them practical advice so that they will save themselves of running at loss. But We have the quacks there. They are sweet mouth coated, their mouth are sugar coated, you know, when they talk. Maybe some of them use jazz, I don't know. That when they talk to you, you have to go by what they say. And at the end of the day, you will discover that after the first cycle, you are running applause. And that's why we have a lot of moribund ponds. I was taking somewhere, I think Mr. Kako took me to one area in Abia. If you look at the whole of that area, we have ponds that have been abandoned because they ran into some of these people. I would have appreciated, well, thank God for this opportunity and for this program coming up. It would have been appreciated if we have a larger house. Because many of our farmers are having problems when it comes to this. Number two, the cost of fish too. So that one also is very, very important. So now, with the cost of feeding, what do you have for us? Because I believe this training is not going to stop here. We are going. It's more or less like train the trainer kind of training that when we get across to other farmers, we need to pass across. With the cost of feeding, now, what do you have for us as farmers? So as to feeding minimally or optimal with optimal feeding, we still have optimal yield within a specified period of time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, last thing you ended with, is it a question?
Yes.
Fish farming.
I really don't know.
I said, what do you have for us?
So, what do you have for us?
What can you say?
In terms of feeding, yes. That's a different topic. It's a different topic. If we can get there today, there's a little bit we are going to talk about feed and feeding management. But the high feed cost is something that is not only affecting us in agriculture. A lot of people are exiting poultry as well.
Yes, sir.
Poultry is shrinking at a very large rate, and the figures for agriculture is not even. It's not encouraging at all. There are some farms that they are hearing, which are we think you won't aspire to, but they are the ones that are even going up. And it's something that we have to talk about. Even, but on a larger note, the issue about feeding is a bigger issue because the high cost of feed, because it's a policy issue really. I think this issue of feed has started in 2016. Sorry, sir. All over.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. I mean, we're seeing it in the U.S. We're seeing it in Ghana. I was in Ghana back in April with a training program there, and we've got a partner there. Not only do we have a WISHH representative there that we are in constant contact with, and we have meetings pretty much monthly, Sofolabi daily. But we're always talking about that, and this is even important from the organization that is sponsoring us, is the high cost of feed and whatever it takes to be more efficient as a farmer. That's exactly why we're kind of here, is making sure that, especially you young folks, this is so important. And if there's one thing to take away from here that I would say to you about feeding, is making sure that you're following carrying capacity, that is the biggest concept that we have going right now. And it is a matter of whole farm efficiency. But when it comes to feeding itself, yes, we are seeing it on a worldwide basis. I've got a project, I'm assisting a project in Cambodia right now. They're talking about the same thing. It's a worldwide issue because of the grain markets, all of that, the raw ingredients, the expense of that has gone up. Fuel consumption has gone up, because that drives the cost of a feed plant to be able to strew the feed, cook the feed, because all that's based on either electricity or gas to power all that. It takes fuel to be able to transport it out. So transportation costs, all of these costs are going up worldwide. And probably if I had to say anything about what you were saying, what your question is, we had this very exact question, and we come up with some budgets last October when I was here. There was 4 of us here that were doing from WISHH. We were doing a training session outside of Lagos. And one night we had a sit down session, and we said, well, let's break out and create some budgets. And Sofolabi has a copy of it. Hopefully. Where when you actually go in and you change your stocking, lower your stocking density where you're meeting carrying capacity, growing and trying to find bigger fish markets would help increase your profitability. But at the same time, you also have to increase the quality of feed that you're feeding. Yes, up front it is costlier, but the quality of growth of the fish that you get as compared to a low quality feed is tremendous, because ultimately what you're doing is you're getting a better feed conversion ratio, like even like a 1/10 of a point to mean the difference between profitability and losing money. A 1/10 of a point. So if you were doing like a 1.7 and you got a 1.6, that could mean the difference between being profitable and losing money. So not only is it that, but also a good quality feed will help you to get to this point a lot faster. So the fish growth rate is faster. That helps you turn over your pond and turn over your crops faster. So it helps with better cash flow. And then after 2 or 3 years, you actually, if you're lowering your stocking density, you've got better feed conversion ratios, then what you're actually doing over a couple of years is your production cycles actually have increased to the point where you've overtaken real heavy stocking density, and you're getting one slug of, one big group of fish coming out at one point. So if there's a couple of things I can say about that is watching your stocking density, making sure that you're matching your carrying capacity, improving the quality of feed that you have, and then consider growing fish to a bigger size. Now, a concept like this right here could very well work, because what you're doing is you could take off a few of those smaller fish and help pay that bill, that feed bill, and that may actually recover your operating costs for that particular cycle. Then everything that you make beyond that is actually profit. So, and one of the things that I consider, and I'll bring this up here in just a second, but the longer that those fish stay in a pond, the better chance they have of dying. And I want you to think about that. The longer that they stay in the pond, the better chance they have of dying. If they die when they're this big and they're ready to go to market, you've lost everything. You've lost all the money that you have put into them. So I'll come back to that statement and explain some things here in just a minute. But probably those are some of the 3 key ingredients I would say right off. And if you want some more information on that, get with Sofolabi. He can actually show you the numbers, a budget number, just by improving your feed conversion ratio a few points. A few 1/10 of a point could really change a farm completely around. I hope that answers your question to some extent.
Thank you very much, Jeff. So, Jeff is talking about the enterprise projects, which might not be able to get to it today, but one thing I just want to promise you is that we are just here for reformers and we're not even, we're still coming back. And instead of being a crash course like this, it's going to be something much more expensive. And so,
Yeah, he's got a really good financial management program. It lasts a couple of days, but even, you know, as a one-on-one, to show that budget is, you know, is well worth trying to understand that.
so just to give an overview of what it's talking about. So if you have all your variables, feed, fish, transportation, your overheads and everything, what we try to do there is we take your data, you know, we just pick one farm and then we take the data and we show it on the TV and then we begin to change something. If you can manage your feed better or manage water quality better and then probably your SCR, if your SCR one, and we begin to see the reflection, you know, based on the profits that we make. And that's, you know, this kind of thing that we think it makes us better feed managers, you know. And I'll still talk about some techniques, not techniques, but they are just common sense things that we already know, and some of them will add. But about feed management, and that will be after its own thing. So,
Yeah, so if you could decrease your production time, say from, you know, if you're in a grow out position where, or you're trying to grow out a market, grow out fish for a market, and it's taking you 7-8 months. If you can back that down to 5 to 6 months, and you know, that's significant, and get a better feed conversion ratio, that's tremendous efficiency in cutting down your cost.
all right, so probably should just come on and I'm done.
Oh, shift, okay.
So, but comment. Just for
Oh, yeah, this is a good
I
example.
didn't want to talk about it, but this is what you were asking for. Yeah, and you know, that's why I said it's a different topic entirely, because we start it, there will be more questions. There will be more questions. But what I just want to say is that, like I was saying, the quality of your feed matters. This was an example of a project we had in Cambodia. So it was one of our other consultants that did this. But I've changed, so the prices, did I change it to Naira? I'm not sure. I think I've changed the prices around. But what you need to see here is, although the feed here is cheap, look at the feed price per kg, 1,000. But 30% protein is 3,000. Although the feed price is more, but look at the profit. This is 1% profit. So these are some of the things. Yes, the feed cost is high, but if you can combine a very good feed, which is expensive, with very good management, vis-a-vis looking at carrying capacity, not overstretching your ponds or your fish, then you might be able to get better results.
Yeah, this was actual farm data. This was built off actual farm data right here, these numbers, from demonstration trials. So, I mean, this is real data. Even though it come from Cambodia, it was in Clarius, and it was an African Asian hybrid Clarius, but this is real farm data. And this gives a really good example. And yeah, we'll have to figure. We got it in Cambodian dollars as far as the nominations here. But I think he has changed this around a little bit as far as the actual.
I converted the Cambodian dollars to Naira, but I didn't change it here. So, but it's in Naira.
Yeah, I believe it is.
It's in Naira.
Yeah.
So, but everybody, bottom line is that the farmer that used this with, I'm stressing with good technique, with management, is able to get higher profit.
Okay, I need to change out computers real quick.